Well, guys, it's finally over. The series everyone has been talking about is officially done. The story of a powerless thief from the slums who finds herself surrounded by elites and caught between two princes has finally wrapped up, and I cannot wait to talk about how it all ends for Mayor Barrow. Wait, hold on, what? Sorry, that's my bad. I must have mixed up my notes. This is the script for Red Queen. Sorry, I guess I'm a little disorganized today. Let's start again. Well, guys, this amazing series is finally coming to a close. After being thrown back into the arena after she thought she was safe, Katniss Everdeen... What? What am I... Sorry, that's the Hunger Games. I think I'm just a little off today. Let's try this one more time. Here is the finale. In order to gain equality in the kingdom of Ilia, our main character now has to pay the ultimate price. She must turn her back on the man she truly loves and marry the king in order to find equality for her people. Okay, this is definitely the right one this time. Now let's talk about our favorite female main character, America Singer. What? Sorry, maybe describing the book wasn't the best idea. Anyway, let's just cut to the chase. Today I will be reviewing Fearless, the last book in the Powerless series by Lauren Roberts. So I first read Powerless at the beginning of this year when I was doing my comparison video between Red Queen and the Powerless series. You can watch it for yourself. I will put a link in the description. I'll also put it up here for your viewing pleasure. But just to kind of sum up that video, I found something like 30 similarities across Powerless and Red Queen. Just a reminder, Red Queen was published first, and these similarities range, but there are some word-for-word copies, including scenes, dialogue. It's a whole mess, and you should just watch it. I can't even go into it right now. But needless to say, it's a bad start for the series. And then I decided to read Reckless, and that was mainly for funsies. I wasn't planning on making a video reviewing just that book. It was really morbid curiosity, and, well, you know what they say about curiosity. And then Fearless came out, and I was like, what the hell? I've invested too much time into this series already. Might as well see how it ends, right? And you know, after all this, I can confidently say that after reading all 3 books, it somehow managed to get worse with each installation. Like, I'm trying to remember how I felt while I was reading Powerless, and I almost feel like it was an enjoyable reading experience in comparison. A lesser of two evils, so to say. Now, normally I would take this time to say that this is just my opinion, and if you like the book, that's fine. You are entitled to your opinion and all that good stuff, right? Which, of course, that is always implied in any kind of review video I make. But as I was preparing to make this video, I decided to scroll through Goodreads and specifically look through all the 5-star and, you know, just the higher ratings to see if anyone could convince me that maybe I was being a little too harsh. I just wanted to see what people were saying to back up their claim that it was a 5-star read. And one of the first reviews that you see on the Goodreads page when you look up Fearless is someone saying, again, who the cares about plagiarism? The trilogy is amazing. Like, yeah, the trilogy is amazing because someone else wrote it first and wrote it better. Maybe. So yeah, forgive me if I'm a little angry today. So first, I'm going to give a brief summary of the Powerless series, focusing mainly on Fearless because, you know, that was the book I read. Then I will be going into my critiques of this book, going over the plot, the characters, the romance, and why it may be a little problematic if you like this book. Because in my opinion, Powerless is showing us that it's no longer just a matter of people liking what they like. I argue that this series created a formula to repeatedly deliver romantic, and arguably sexual, gratification to the reader off the backs of successful novels like Red Queen, The Selection, and others. Allegedly. I cannot say for sure. So yes, this is going to be a rant review. I will absolutely be dogging on this series, and if you can't handle it, I suggest you click off the video now. So without further ado, hello. Welcome back. It is a new day, a new sleigh, and a new video where I have something to say, and today we are going to be talking about this god-awful series that is Powerless. So we start off with Powerless, which was self-published by Lauren Roberts before getting picked up for traditional publishing through Simon & Schuster. Powerless follows the story of Paedyn Gray, a thief from the slums who has to steal to survive. She is powerless in a society of people with elite magical abilities. One day she has a fateful encounter with the prince of this kingdom and finds herself thrown into the Purging Trials. Now these trials are meant to show off the best and strongest that Ilia has to offer. But while she's fighting for her life, she's also getting pulled in between the two princes of this kingdom, Kai, the dude she met in the slums, and Kitt, the future king of Ilia. Powerless ends with Paedyn helping the resistance made up of ordinaries and fatals. I'm not going to explain too much about that. They have a face-off with the elites and the king of Ilia, which is Edric at this time. King Edric reveals to Paedyn that her love interest Kai is the person that murdered her father a few years ago. And in her rage, Paedyn kills King Edric, forcing Kitt to take the throne. The second book, Reckless, sees Paedyn on the run from the law. Kai let her go at the end of book 1, but he only gave her a head start. She finds temporary refuge in the kingdom of Door, I think it was called, but she is quickly captured by Kai. What ensues for the next 10 hours of the audiobook is them making out in the desert and pining for each other in the desert. Anywho, they do a lot of rolling around in the sand before eventually Kai has to take her back to Ilia. And book 2 ends with this uber amazing, how could anyone have guessed it plot twist, because Kitt is actually not going to sentence her to death for killing the king. No, instead, he's going to marry her. Oh my god. What? You mean, how could I? My heart cannot take this suffering. Which brings us to Fearless, book 3, and hopefully the final book in this series. In this book, Paedyn is now officially engaged to Kitt. His plan is to try and integrate the ordinaries with the elites in Ilia so that they can show to the neighboring countries that, hey, we're not actually racist, you guys should open up trade to us. Because they're the only kingdom in Ilia that has segregation. Weird. So the only way that they can show that they're welcoming to the ordinaries is for Kitt to marry Paedyn. But the royal court, and of course, all of Ilia, does not like her. She did have that one little mess up, that little slip up, where she killed the past king, and people don't particularly like that. So they determined that the only way that the people of Ilia will take her seriously is if she participates in another Purging Trials. In each trial, she has to prove that she is one of the 3 Bs, which is supposedly the motto of Ilia that has never been brought up before this point. The 3 Bs being brave, benevolent, and brutal. Benevolent, brutal. I feel like those are antonyms. Like, how can you prove whatever? So while she's fighting for her life, she's also having an affair with Kai and trying to find a way to have it all. So that is the basic summary of the series. If you don't want any spoilers, I suggest clicking off now. So with that out of the way, let's get into what makes this book one of the worst reads of 2025. I'll start off by saying that most of the issues with the plot are due to a lack of reasoning for why certain things need to happen. You know, things like, why is Paedyn the way that she is? Why are all these characters so insufferable? Why did we decide to publish this? This lack of why is most evident in the marriage plot. For example, me as the reader, why do we need to have a marriage plot? The answer, because this book insists on having a love triangle that doesn't need to happen. 1, Paedyn is clearly in love with Kai by the end of book 2, by the first chapter that they interact with each other in book 1, arguably. And people swear up and down that Kitt is not a love interest. And I'm just like, guys, he's not the main one, and he's definitely not endgame, but he's a contender. So Paedyn is clearly meant to end up with Kai. And then the second issue is because their marriage poses a huge moral issue, which I won't spoil just yet, but oh boy, are you in for a treat. The reason we get this arranged marriage, and I'm going to use arranged marriage because I know it makes a lot of you people uncomfortable, but that's what it is. The reason we get this arranged marriage is because Kai needs to show to the world that Ilia is totally okay with ordinaries, and the only way to show that is if they have an ordinary on the throne. So Paedyn has 2 choices when he pops out that ring. She can either accept his proposal or be put to death. So normally, this would be a pretty okay explanation for why this arranged marriage needs to happen. Listen, I'm a romance girly. I know a marriage of convenience when I see one. I know it's a trope, but here is where I remind you all that Kitt is the literal fucking king of Ilia. He has advisors for sure. He has his little royal court, but there's no one above him. There is no one forcing him to make this decision. As the literal king of Ilia, I would expect him to have all the power in the world to just pardon her, make her a little advisor, give her some kind of like throwaway royal title or something. The marriage itself doesn't need to happen. He's making it seem like, oh my God, I have no other choice. They're making me marry her. No, they are not. And this is the part where people say, but Kristen, it's not supposed to make sense. The fuzzy logic is supposed to lead up to this huge twist at the end. It's all just a red herring to lead up to the real reason why this marriage needs to happen. I know that's what you want to say, and don't say it. If you want an effective twist, your red herring, the thing that throws your reader off the trail, has to have some kind of plausible deniability. Your reader should buy it as a reason upon the first read. It should make enough sense where your reader isn't immediately questioning the logistics of this so-called reason, because you want those questions to kind of be lingering in the background, but not front and center. Because if your reader is questioning it from the get-go, then it spoils the twist. Like, they already have that distrust. Like, they're not just gonna accept whatever you say. So for me to read this and immediately be like, this kind of like doesn't make sense and doesn't seem very plausible is not a good thing. It's not a good sign for an effective twist. And don't even get me started on that bull twist at the end of this book. Oh my God. But I'm not gonna talk about that now. We're focusing on the marriage. The marriage also functions as a way to kind of manufacture a forbidden romance between Paedyn and Kai to really build up that romantic tension. I'll talk a little bit more on the romance in just a few moments, but when I tell you that everyone knew that they were hooking up, everyone on the planet knew they were hooking up. They get caught in the first chapter. Literally, no joke. Paedyn puts on the ring. Okay, so she's an engaged woman. She leaves the throne room and he immediately goes into a closet with Kai. They do their little thing and then are immediately caught by one of the servants. This is Paedyn's servant, Ellie, which I forgot who she was, and the book did not remind me that she was supposed to be important. She was from book 1 and she's never mentioned in book 2. And you know what Ellie does when she sees her future queen having an affair with the prince, the enforcer? Oh my God, don't get me started on the nickname. I hate it. I'm not calling him that. You know what she does? Nothing. So we got Ellie, Andy, who is related to Kai and Kitt, doesn't say anything. The queen of a neighboring country literally caught them in her castle. Lenny, a guard that serves Kitt, also knows about it. And, oh, not to mention, Kitt knows. He knows. Guys, Paedyn and Kai are supposed to be the smart ones. You mean to tell me that they're hiding their romance? Meanwhile, Paedyn and Kai literally have sex in the courtyard of the castle the night before her wedding and no one saw it happen? I will only accept that answer if the population of Ilia is 2 and those 2 people happen to be on the other side of the globe at the time that they were in the courtyard. So already they're not hiding it well, but it's also not a forbidden romance because they never explain to you what would really happen if Kitt were to find out, as if he didn't already know, find out about their little shenanigans. Like, what is he gonna do? Is he gonna sentence Paedyn to death? Is he going to punish Kai? Like, what could he realistically do in that situation to make them scared enough and to really play into this forbidden romance thing? We get no straightforward explanation, so I always assumed that the risk was that if Kitt saw them, he would be sad because he's in a love triangle. And that's it. For reference, in the selection, America's participating in this competition to see who's going to marry the prince, right? And they do a forbidden romance as well. And the reason it's forbidden is because anyone that's participating in that little competition can only have eyes for Prince Maxim. And in book 2 of that series, we see one of the participants having an affair. And you know what they do to her? Spoiler. They sentence her to death. Now, granted, it all turns out okay for her in the end, but she was still punished severely for what she did. That's a real intangible risk. that is forbidden. You know, as the reader, if America is caught with her actual love interest, she will face consequences. What will happen if Paedyn is caught with Kai? Nothing. Sorry, y'all, I had to do a wardrobe change. I was getting very heated, not only from the book, but just literally. Now we move on to the second biggest plot issue, and ironically, the main focus of this book, which is the Purging Trials. Guys, absolutely nothing could have pissed me off more than when they revealed that she was going to have to go through the Purging Trials for a second time. I kind of had a crash out on my Goodreads about it. It was not a good time for me. Part of the reason that it's not very effective in the plot is because the trials never even made sense in book 1. The trials are explained as an event where the elites in Ilia can show off their powers, and here are my issues with that. 1. There's a part in Powerless where they clearly explained that the participants in the trials were not expected to kill each other. That was not a requirement of the trials. But all the characters operate as if the Purging Trials are a battle royale format. Issue number 2. We never hear about the past trials to get a baseline of what to expect. In the Hunger Games, they tell you about the past games. They're the same every single year. The arena is different. They tell you what you can expect and what not to expect. That is not the case for the Purging Trials in book 1, 2, or 3. Issue number 3. Paedyn has this weird idea. She is convinced that she is going to die in these trials when it is 100% against the best interest of the kingdom if she dies. At this point in the book, I know the end is a little different. At this point in the book, Kitt's goal is to get Paedyn on the throne. That is what he wants. Paedyn has no reason to believe that Kitt would want her dead. He needs her. She is a peace offering to the neighboring kingdoms. So tell me, why would Kitt put her in any kind of real danger when he had all the power to prevent it? Not to mention that Paedyn does not struggle at all with any of these trials. Let's break it down. Trial number 1. She had to go to the Scorches, the little desert area, to find the past queen's crown. There is a queen that is buried somewhere in the Scorches. She's the only queen that's buried there. Her crown is somewhere in her tomb. Paedyn has to go find it. This trial is supposed to show off her bravery. No one else has gone to the tomb. No one's been able to reclaim her crown, yada, yada, yada. But when I tell you, they could have easily faked this trial because no one watched her do it. Let me set the scene. They are on the edge of the Scorches. Paedyn is about to go inside. Everyone watches her. The minute she starts walking into the desert, they all fucking leave. The court is just sitting around in the throne room with their thumbs up their asses, waiting for her to come back. Could anyone verify that it was the right crown? I mean, this was years ago when she died. Was anyone still alive to know what it looked like? Did they have pictures to verify that it was the right one? She could have stolen some other random person's crown. And as I already said, no one else in Ilia has ever been able to retrieve the crown. But our main character, Paedyn, because she's such a girl boss, finds it on accident. She literally falls into the tomb. And then, when she's confronted by bandits, she overpowers them with ease, despite being outnumbered. So yay, Paedyn wins her first trial with minutes to spare. Woohoo. The second trial, she has to sail across the Shallows. The name is a little misleading. The Shallows is actually a very ravenous ocean. So Paedyn has to sail across the Shallows to make it to the neighboring kingdom of Isram. Her goal is to show her benevolence and have the kingdom of Isram open up trade with Ilia. This one I'm like, okay, yeah, my logic doesn't really apply. Kitt couldn't have faked this happening, at least not for long. But the thing I hate about this trial is how welcoming they are to Paedyn. Mind you, they already established that no one in Ilia has been able to make it across the Shallows in years. Isram has not had a visitor in years. So when they show up, you mean to tell me that they just welcome these random strangers from the ocean with no qualms and no reservations? And then when Paedyn goes to meet the queen, because they just let anyone meet their queen, the queen is initially a little hesitant. She's like, okay, you're here on behalf of King Kitt, which is like awful to say. And Paedyn's like, no, I speak for myself because I'm a strong, independent woman that only sometimes, always, relies on a man to help me. And the queen eats that up. The queen befriends Paedyn immediately, and it's kind of funny because she's like, Paedyn, bitch, pussy slay queen, you can stay in my little castle, but the boys, icky, they have to stay on the ship. Like, she girl bossed her way into a trade agreement. But that's not even the worst part, because Paedyn is let into the castle and everything's fine and dandy. And then Kai sneaks into her window and they make their little nasty love nest in the queen's rooms. Like, you are a guest in this neighboring kingdom. They have not with you guys in a really long time, and you're gonna mess it up for some girl. They literally wake up and the queen is looking at them like, please, oh my god. We didn't need to focus on that 3Bs nonsense. You guys needed to train her on some grace and decorum, what a queen really should have. Anyway, moving on. The third trial is that she has to show that she is brutal, and the only way she can show that she's brutal is by fighting to the death. And who is she fighting? Kai, her love interest. You wound me, Lauren Roberts. I really couldn't have cared less. And you know what? We had a beautiful moment on the internet where everyone agreed that this was probably the worst part of Fearless. Everyone, and I mean even the 5-star reviews, hated this trial and hated it bad. Obviously, it's a cheap way to build tension because you have 40% of the book left. So could you realistically think that she was gonna kill off the love interest? No, obviously not. The funny part about this trial is that Paedyn gets her ass annihilated by Kai. Like, there is no fight, there's no competition. He was gonna kick her ass. The only reason that she wins is because Kitt lets her. At some point he's like, damn, I really shouldn't be fighting this hard. And then he's like, okay, uppercut me now. Yeah. And then wah, you know, very like when you as an adult fight like a child and you're like, oh my god, you're so strong. Very much like that. And then Kai just like kills himself. But surprise, it's not actually Kai that dies in the arena. It is this side character, and his name is Mac, and he is the love interest of Adina. Do you remember Adina? That was Paedyn's best friend from book 1. She died at the end of book 1. There's a Powerless novella, which is called Powerful. I know, super creative. And this is Adina's love story and how she meets Mac and all their adventures. I have not read it, but apparently it's very beloved. Like, everyone loves Powerful. So Lauren Roberts took an incredibly beloved character from that novella and essentially like took him out back and shot him like a dog. Like, objectively, his death was very meaningless and gruesome. And that was even before I knew that it was Mac. She literally sacrificed him just so that Kai wouldn't be the one to die. And I think this really falls into some weird line of thinking that if you kill a beloved character, that it gives your story depth and that your book is interesting if characters that people love die. Like, take Finnick from The Hunger Games or Newt from The Maze Runner. Like, those are very, very beloved characters and people hated that they died. Sorry, I guess that's a spoiler. But it's not just a matter of, yes, we're taking a beloved character and killing them off. Their deaths were both meaningful. Mac doesn't even get to die as himself. He's literally wearing a facade so that he looks like Kai. And of course, it was just like really cheap because obviously Kai was gonna live. Nothing about that scene or that fight really holds any weight or depth. Like, I didn't even feel myself feeling any kind of emotion. Like, I already didn't like the book, right? But if something is sad, I can, you know, objectively be like, man, it's kind of rough. I don't think you'll ever meet someone who is genuinely surprised that he was not dead. Overall, the trials were boring. And I know that they were only designed so that Paedyn would die trying to complete them. And again, not an issue plot-wise, but as the reader, I should have reasonable doubt that Paedyn has no other choice but to compete in these trials. And God forbid, they should be kind of interesting. Honestly, it feels like we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel for plot ideas. I mean, we had to do the trials again? Moving on, I've been talking throughout this entire video about the twist, and now I'm finally going to explain it. But first, let me give you some context. Throughout the book, we get perspective chapters from the now deceased King Edric. He was the father of Kai and Kitt, and through his chapters, we learn that his wife, Queen Iris, died in childbirth. But before this point, we were led to believe that she died giving birth to Kitt. But that is not the case. She survived giving birth to Kitt. She actually died giving birth to a baby girl. This baby girl was ordinary. Now hold on. I know you want to guess who the baby is, but don't guess just yet. We still have 75% of the book left to get through. Anyway, after Iris dies, King Edric is like, I don't want this powerless baby. Get rid of it, please. Then, while he is grief-stricken, because for some reason they specify that he was in love with Queen Iris. Again, very weird to humanize a character that we already established was a tyrant and was evil. Like, did we need his tragic backstory, TM? Was that necessary? No, it didn't add anything. He's an asshole. Then, after Queen Iris dies, Edric gets married to the daughter of one of his advisors. This daughter already has a child, but this child has such a powerful ability that King Edric decides to pretend that it's his kid. Who is this kid? Well, it's Kai. Surprise, they're not actually blood related. So they covered up to make it seem that Queen Iris died after giving birth to Kitt. Then the king remarried and his new wife gave birth to Kai, but that they still share the same father. They're half siblings. But what happened to the ordinary baby, you ask? Well, his advisor couldn't bear to kill a small defenseless child, so he just left it on someone's doorstep and ran. And you want to know who that baby is? Drum roll, please. I know, so much anticipation. You can't wait to find out. You're literally on the edge of your seat. You have no idea this major twist. The baby is Paedyn. Yeah. It's pretty obvious if you have more than a singular brain cell. That isn't really the twist. The only thing you have to glean from this context is that since Paedyn is technically of royal blood, she has a claim to the throne. Oh, and I guess I forgot to mention this part. It's really not that important. She is half siblings with Kitt. They share the same mother. And you know when she finds this out? After they kiss on the altar. What? Was the Mortal Instruments not enough? Was one YA series where potential siblings kiss not enough? So as it turns out, Paedyn is not only the daughter of past Queen Iris, she's also the daughter of one of the advisors of King Edric. And this advisor is Callum, who we already met, apparently. I actually forgot when I picked up this book. He is the leader of the resistance, and Paedyn initially thinks that he's using his little mind reader powers to control Kitt. She believes that he has the ability to not only read minds, but control them, and that she made Kitt marry her and made him put her through the trials and all this nonsense. So she goes to tell Kitt, and Kitt kills Callum. There's too many K names. I'm sorry, but this is actually going to annoy me, because who let Lauren Roberts name two main characters, Kai and Kitt? Like, when this got traditionally published, we didn't think to rename one of them. I mean, keep the K if you must, but at least make the name more than a singular syllable. Maybe then it would be easier to differentiate between these two people. I'm infamously really bad at naming stuff. I really struggle to come up with titles for my videos sometimes, but even I could pick up a fucking baby name book. So after Kitt kills Callum, and after everything is supposed to be all fine and dandy in Ilya, Paedyn finds out that Kitt was actually never under any kind of mind control from Callum, because he didn't actually have that ability. He was acting of his own free will, because surprise twist, he was trying to get Paedyn killed this whole time. And why does he harbor so much hatred for Paedyn? Is it because she killed his dad? No. It's because Paedyn stole his brother from him. So a couple things to go over. One, the claim that Paedyn stole Kai is entirely unfounded. Like, normally when this is a plot device, there's some reason why a character feels this way. Whether it's real or perceived, there is some kind of event that leads a character to believe that they're being abandoned. And you as the reader, even if you don't agree with that character, you can kind of understand where they're coming from. And this isn't abnormal for sibling characters, because I would say it's usually a matter of like, oh, well now you're spending so much time with your significant other and we're not hanging out and you're ignoring me or whatever. And those feelings are valid for the most part. But in the case of these characters, they hang out all the time. Kai and Kitt have so many moments together, whether it's just the two of them or all three with Paedyn. But to my point, they hang out all the time. There is never an instance where Kitt is isolated or he is kind of singled out away from Kai and Paedyn. Like, they all are together all the time. The second issue I have with this is that in order to throw you off the trail that Kitt is the bad guy in this story, they give him a lot of conflicting dialogue right at the beginning. And they do this to make it seem as if he is actually kind of in love with Paedyn, that he has some kind of feelings for her, that he is jealous of Kai. There's an instance where Kitt gets upset because Paedyn has her ring on the wrong finger. He gets upset when he realized that Kai has told her more stories from their childhood and she knows all about them, and he is very jealous of the connection that they share. It just feels really conflicting, and I guess with the context that he's jealous that Paedyn is stealing Kai away, it kind of makes more sense, but it is like barely passing. It reads more like they're in a love triangle and not that Kitt is just jealous that she's taking Kai away. My third issue with this plot twist is that the book refuses to make Kitt an antagonist. Like, they go back and forth, no joke, back and forth on why Kitt is doing what he's doing. First, they say that Kitt has always hated ordinaries and he has been planning this since when his father was alive, that Kitt has never wanted a united Ilya, that he has always been helping his father with his goals. And then it's like, oh no, he just always wanted to prove that he was better than his father, and that's why he's acting like a tyrant. And then they flip to, oh no, Kitt isn't acting like this because he wants to, it's because he's sick, because he took the plague, and that's why he suddenly turned racist towards the ordinaries. So they're really not set on when Kitt decided to do all this, why he decided to do all this, if it's all motivated because of Paedyn, or if he always didn't like the ordinaries. And then by the end of the book, they really just lean into the, oh no, it's because of the plague. Kitt has always been a very nice person, and he didn't want to. He didn't want to sentence all the ordinaries to death. It was the illness that made him do it. His last chapter is him just like wallowing in his own self-pity, and he's like, I'm just so lonely. I just wanted my big brother to spend time with me. And that's why I tried to get you killed. It's just so annoying because everyone gets a stupid, tragic backstory. Like, they are not set on making anyone just a straight up villain. You got King Edric, someone that literally branded Paedyn, carved an O into her chest. And suddenly it's, oh, he was just so heartbroken. He was in love with Queen Iris and then the other lady. He was just so in love with them. And then with Blair, the person that literally killed Adina, Paedyn's best friend in the entire world, suddenly it's like, oh, but Blair, she didn't want to. She had no choice. She gets a redemption. First of all, why the f*** is she in the book? Her appearance in the book is so stupid. They only bring her up so that Paedyn can kill her, and then only for, surprise, surprise, she didn't actually die. She somehow made it out of a f***ing fire. Don't get me started. Don't get me started because I'm going to piss myself off right now. Even Callum, the person that literally was going to sentence ordinaries to death, he's not a bad guy. He was just so heartbroken that the love of his life could never be his. He couldn't marry Queen Iris because she was already married to the king. And then she died and he was so heartbroken. And that's why he left his child to die and then tried getting her killed again Oh my god. Not everyone needs a tragic backstory. Not everyone needs to be redeemed. It doesn't give your characters depth. It's just lazy. Pull the trigger, make someone an antagonist, and move on. It's all just very lazy and contradictory because Edric and Callum say over and over that Paedyn is the one that killed Iris, that if she hadn't have been born, Iris would still be alive. So they get all angry at her, and then they, time and time again, show Paedyn mercy. Like, if you believe that this person killed the love of your life, why would you then take pity on them? Like, these are supposed to be the villains of the story, and even they can't be mean to Paedyn. I refuse to believe she's that pretty. At first, I thought it was going to be like an ultra secret reveal that Paedyn actually does have powers, because they mentioned that Iris's ability was that she could manipulate people's emotions, and I thought that maybe they had initially thought that she was powerless, but they were wrong, and that Paedyn secretly had been using this ability. I was actually waiting for it, and I would have been slightly more okay with the book if they had this reveal. I was even gonna bump up my review from 1 star to 2, but then it never happened. Honestly, that's on me. I gave this book more credit than it deserved, and how did I ever think that any actual thought went into its creation? That was my bad. Caught me lacking, truly. Overall, the twist is very meh. It only holds weight if you are like really invested in the story and don't care about the writing, world building, logistics, plot, characters, or I guess anything really. The one thing I will say that royally pissed me off is how Paedyn finds out that she's the daughter of Queen Iris. Let me set the scene. Paedyn is looking through a jewelry box that belonged to Queen Iris. In the box, she finds a photo of Queen Iris. She looks at it and immediately concludes that she is the daughter of this person. Why? Because they both have blue eyes and freckles. And then she gives us this stupid line where she looks at the photo and she's like, blood recognizes blood. Girl, it's not blood, it's ink. You mean to tell me that not a single other person in the kingdom of Ilia has blue eyes and freckles? All right, I actually had to turn on the light because I've been talking for so long that the sun has set. But moving on from the plot, we are now going to focus on the characters. I know, I'm not done ranting. So now let's talk about our main character, Paedyn Gray. Paedyn is something of a girl boss, and I mean that as an insult. The book tries to tell us over and over again that Paedyn is uber strong and powerful despite the fact that she's ordinary. And this boils down to Paedyn succeeding at everything she does or relying on Kai to save her. You know, because she's so itty bitty. How could she ever be expected to do anything? She's just so small and dainty. One of her character quirks is that she's Sherlock Holmes for some reason. She does her little deductive reasoning where she can essentially read people, you know, guessing that you're a drunk based on the scratches near the charging port of your phone. And originally, I was kind of okay with it in book 1. I actually liked it. Let me rescind that. I liked her little deductions that she made in book 1. But the problem that I realized as the series went on is that she was never wrong. Even the moments where she says she was literally guessing, she is never inaccurate. Which, guys, the Sherlock scene that I just referenced right now, he was wrong in his deduction. You mean to tell me that Paedyn Gray is better than Sherlock Holmes? Not likely. Listen, failure does not mean weakness, but this book makes it impossible for Paedyn to fail, which making a character incapable of failing does not make them strong. It just means that they have plot armor. So the fact that she never loses a fight and she's never wrong in any of her deductions of people just weakens her character overall. It doesn't make her seem uber strong and uber powerful. She just doesn't seem very real as a character. And that's just when she's alone. Don't even get me started on the scenes where she's actually with Kai. Because if Kai is in the mix, she immediately infantilizes herself. And she does this so that Kai has to save her. In book 1 during the trials, Kai saves her, even though she was absolutely going to die without his help. When they're sailing across the sea and she gets kidnapped by the crew, Kai comes to save her, which that part I especially hate because it's like, you mean to tell me that this girl was just able to fight off a group of bandits but couldn't fight off a group of sailors? What's the difference between those two scenes, you may ask? Well, Kai is not present when she has to take on the bandits, and Kai is present on the ship when she's kidnapped, which is why Paedyn was able to win in one fight when she was outnumbered, but not in the other. So if the only time that your character fails is in the presence of their love interest, and only so that love interest can save her, you didn't write a girl boss. You wrote a doormat. Having this character constantly needing rescue from their love interest, despite the fact that we know she can stand on her own 2 feet in a fight, just weakens this whole powerful despite being powerless argument. A word of advice? There's nothing wrong with a character that has met their match. The reality is that because Paedyn does not have abilities, there are some things she's not going to be able to do. There are people that she literally will not be able to beat in a fight. And there's nothing wrong with that, but making her OP in some instances and infantilizing her in others is inconsistent at best and misogynistic at worst. She also just doesn't have a real character arc throughout this book. Honestly, through the series, she doesn't really learn anything. And especially in this book, because everything just kind of turns out okay, she gets everything that she wants. They try to pass off this weird arc of her learning to say I love you after everyone she's ever loved dying, which I was honestly okay with that as an arc for her, but it gets resolved really quickly. Like, she is struggling to say I love you to Kai, but the minute that he almost died in their little one-on-one battle, she immediately is like, I'm not holding back anymore, I love you. And that's it. There was still half the book left, and she already went through her arc. It's just But speaking of feminism, let's move on to our love interest, Kitt Azer. So this aspect of feminism really goes hand in hand with the whole marriage plot, and what I'm gonna say is gonna make me sound like the too woke person in the room, but I have to say it. Kai is 100% okay with having an affair with Paedyn while she's engaged but not married. Why? The same reason that when you tell a guy that's relentlessly hitting on you that you're married, it's more effective than telling him, I'm not interested. Because men will respect another man's claim on you more than they will respect you as an individual. There is just so much weight put on the sanctity of marriage and all these traditional values. And it just feels really weird because you also have characters telling Kai like, oh, don't steal Paedyn away now that Kitt has her, talking about her like she's an object. They all talk about Paedyn as if she is something to have, that she has no say in her own feelings and romantic relationships. And for the only thing to stop Kai being wedding vows says a lot, because the book is trying to say that this is a forbidden romance, that there is some sense of danger if they're found out, which means that Kai is okay risking Paedyn's safety, risking equality in Ilya for ordinaries, so long as he can get a quick smooch. No, risking equality for the ordinaries is nothing to Kai. The one thing that will stop him, though, are those pesky wedding vows. Why? Again, because he has more respect for the claim that Kitt would have on Paedyn more than he respects anything that she's doing this for. He knows why she's getting married to him. He knows what's at stake, and he doesn't give a But more to Kai's credit, I also don't really like his character because he's just kind of a sex object. He's a piece of meat. Really, he's just there to look pretty and be pathetically in love with Paedyn. And trust me, I'm okay with someone who's a little, a little pathetic. But that doesn't mean you can't also give them depth and character. They just made him this weird killing machine that also has muscles and occasionally feelings. Also, on a lighter note, they say over and over again that Kai is poetic. And listen, if you are going to say that a character is poetic, you have to make sure you can back that up. Writing poetry is hard. It's really hard to speak in that language, and it's very different from writing prose or writing a novel, right? So sure, he has some flowery language, he has some proclamations of love, but I wouldn't call it poetic. I would call it conveniently marketable catchphrases that look really good in Goodreads reviews. That's a little nitpicky, but I don't really care. I'm gonna just throw that in. Anyway, moving on to Kitt. Now, I already said this, but I kind of hate that they didn't commit to making him a real antagonist. I think we're supposed to get the vibe that he's a complex character, but really it just comes across as if he has no true purpose or depth as a character. They also tried to convince us that bad things will happen if Kitt finds out about Kai and Paedyn, but Homeboy is a sick Victorian child. He has zero authority. No one respects him. You mean to tell me that the societal pressure forced you to marry Paedyn and put her through these trials? You are the king. Who is forcing you to do this? Really, it just seems like he's not a very good king. That people don't respect him, they don't listen to him. Because if this was Edric, he would just be like, okay, I'm marrying an ordinary and that's it. Don't say shit about it, and everyone would just go with it. But not with Kitt. They also really harp on this Mad King business, which is so annoying. They call him crazy because he throws food out the window. It's weird, but not weird enough where you should be whispering about it like he's gone insane. Guys, as someone who has visited the Grippy Sock Institution, that's not crazy. Listen, you go and watch Queen Charlotte. See how King George is portrayed. And you come back and tell me if Kitt is a mad king or not. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Now, we move on to the main event of this video, which is the romance. So at the end of Reckless, Paedyn and Kai have already confessed their feelings for each other. So there's really no arc to be had in Fearless. They're already together. They already know how they feel about each other. So there's nothing else really to develop. They try to pass off the weird, I love you thing from Paedyn as if it's an arc, but as I already mentioned, it gets resolved really quickly. There's no longing, there's no forbidden love aspect with them. Again, because they literally have these moments all the time. People see them sneak off into rooms. People catch them mid makeout session and no one says anything. So realistically, nothing is keeping them apart and there is no danger. So why do people talk about the romance in this book? Why is the romance convincing so many people to pick up Powerless? Why does everyone rave about it on Goodreads? Well, the reason people like the romance is because it's essentially a confession scene over and over and over again. You see, back in my day, you would read a romance book and it was a journey. First, your characters meet each other. They exchange their little banter. They get to know each other. Maybe they have some setbacks. Maybe they drift apart. But it all leads up to that one confession where they finally lay it all out in the open and express their love for each other. And when you get to that point, there's a payoff, there's gratification because you waited so long to get there. You rode that roller coaster. You were right there alongside them. And finally, they can be together and they can be happy. And it's a beautiful moment in a romance book when you get to that confession. But one of the key reasons that it's so fulfilling is because you waited for it. But in this world of instant gratification, people have decided to apply it to books. Consider the success of TikTok. It is designed to capture your attention as quickly as possible and continuously give you that rush of dopamine each time you scroll. It's giving you that payoff frequently and consistently. That's a big reason why people doom scroll. That's why you find yourself on TikTok for hours on end. Even when you say, this is the last video, you just can't stop. It's because your brain is constantly chasing that high. It's chasing that dopamine rush. And it looks like we've applied that same logic to Powerless. Every interaction between Paedyn and Kai is a compressed romance arc that normally would span either a book or even an entire series, and now suddenly you're getting it in these short chapters throughout an entire book. Every interaction between Paedyn and Kai boils down to this: they meet up with each other, exchange some witty banter, but then they get serious, and suddenly Paedyn is talking about her tragic backstory, and then Kai spouts some very quotable nonsense and grovels at her feet. They finish the scene with a kiss, and it's done. And you get that over and over and over and over again. Now, this isn't exactly a new concept, but before, the place where you would go to get this kind of gratification was fan fiction. On Wattpad, the world is your oyster. You can read a million different fanfics about Hermione and Draco or Zuko and Katara, and you could just watch them fall in love over and over and over again. You could even read one-shots where it's literally just a chapter and you could just get these cute little scenes between characters. You could find so many different ways to feed that itch for romance. And it's a lot more compressed, it's quick, easy. Usually it's a lot more focused on this romance aspect, on giving you that instant gratification. So that's not necessarily the issue. The problem is with how it's being delivered. Fanfiction writers are creating something that is based on pre-existing content. Driven by their own passion, they create fanfiction, whether it's about real people or stories, movies, TV shows, whatever, and they do it for free. Now listen, there is a lot of debate about whether or not Powerless copied off of other popular novels like The Selection, The Hunger Games, and Red Queen primarily. In my opinion, personally, I think it is. People like to say that it's just similar tropes and it's a part of the genre, but it goes a lot deeper than that. As I mentioned in my original video comparing Red Queen and Powerless, some of the specific details are the same. It's not just a trope. Like one bed is a trope, and to have that across multiple books is not copying. But if the two characters have the same name, the hotel name is the same, the dialogue is the same, even the color of the sheets are the same, then there is a conversation to be had about copying. And that's what I'm saying about Powerless. It's not just tropes. It's a lot of the details. Even the dialogue is the same. You just have to watch the video. I can't go into it, but just know that when you take all of it into account, not just these one offhand coincidences. Because listen, in Powerless, the kingdom name is Ilia. In The Selection, it is also Ilia. If it was just that, literally nothing else was similar to any other book, I would not say that it's copied. Yeah, it's a coincidence, but it's not enough to say that she copied off of The Selection. But it's the kingdom name, it's the characters, it's the powers, it's the world, it's everything, all the details. And when you take it all into consideration, it's eerily similar to a lot of other books. Which brings me to why I think the series is a little problematic. It's giving the reader that instant gratification by regurgitating the same confession scene between Kai and Paedyn. But it's delivering that instant gratification, allegedly, off the backs of other popular novels. It is my belief that the series is relying on you calling back to these other books, Red Queen, The Hunger Games, The Selection, in order to fill in the world building gaps in Powerless. Because really, the romance is what you should be focusing on, right? The plot, the world building, it's all very secondary. So why put in any effort when you can lightly borrow from other successful stories when they've done all the work for you? And while there's nothing wrong with getting your little romance fix, there is something wrong when you're getting it from books like this. You are giving them your money and your support. So when a book like Powerless becomes a bestseller, despite all the similarities to already successful books, it reinforces that not only can someone allegedly get away with copying other books, but they can make money off of it too. And they can do it through a traditional publishing deal, and they can do it again and again and again. Listen, guys, I like myself some romance. Contrary to popular belief, I do actually enjoy some of the tropes that are in this book. And I can understand chasing the high of a confession, but not like this. Overall, I think this book was really truly written for people that are just in it for the romance. But in order to cater to that group, we've created one of the most poorly executed fantasy books I have ever read. The world building is awful, the characters are flat, and the writing is juvenile. This actually made me so mad, and normally I'm not a stickler for the language and the way that certain books are written, but it was so hard to ignore in this one. Anytime Paedyn is on the brink of death, supposedly she's never actually in any kind of risk, she describes everything as, I was about to face my adjective grave. When she's in the ocean, my watery grave. When she's in the desert, my sandy grave. Like, it's just the same thing over and over. They just switch out the adjective. Anything in this book that is the color red or blue is either described as blood red or ocean blue. Literally, anytime Kai talks about the color of Paedyn's eyes, he only says ocean eyes. He is incapable of thinking of any other thing that is blue besides the ocean. So yeah, I'm actually kind of aggravated because romantasy is a really popular genre. And then when I read romantasy books and I complain about the fantasy and the world building, people then reply to me and say, oh, well, that's not really the focus. Really, it's just about the romance, so you shouldn't be commenting on stuff like that. And I'm like, the genre is romantasy. Fantasy is in the fucking name. What do you mean I can't comment on that? What do you mean you just wanted an excuse to have castles and kings and dragon dicks all over this fucking book? What do you mean? So I beg you, if you need that short, sweet, romantic climax, maybe that wasn't a good word for it, just read a contemporary romance or watch a slice of life. You know, slice of life anime is actually really good for this kind of thing. Rom-coms work wonders, guys. But anyway, I think that's the end of my review. I've been talking for 3 hours. That is how heated I am. Like, some books are bad and do nothing to me. Like, I maybe wasted my time reading it, but it doesn't hurt me physically. This hurt me so bad. So until Bonds of Hercules, the second book to Blood of Hercules, comes out, this is going to be my worst read of 2025. I have wasted so much time on this series, and I'm telling you, after 3 books, nothing was solved. Like, we hear nothing about equality for the ordinaries. We hear nothing about the trade with the other kingdoms. The only thing that happens at the end of the book is, surprise, Paedyn got pregnant and had a kid, and now she's married. Because yeah, that's really what everyone was reading for. No one else cares about the fate of the ordinaries. No one else cares about what happened to the kingdom of Ilia. It's only me, because only I was reading for the plot. But you know what? That was on me. So, my bad, guys. God forbid I read a book for the plot. Anyway, it goes without saying, this is gonna get a 0 stars. I really think that a lot of book review sites should allow you to give 0 stars. Why do I have to give 1? That's giving too much. That's really all I have to say. I'm glad it's over, but I'm gonna guess that it's probably not really over. If I had to guess, I would say there's probably another novella in the works. Some other kind of spin-off content. Or maybe we'll go the selection route and get a sequel with the kid. Which, if that happens, you guys, ooh, prepare to be sick of me. The plagiarism allegations will just continue. But anyway, that's the end of my review. If you want to know more about the similarities between Powerless and Red Queen, you can watch my video. I broke it all down, and there are a lot of comments that brought up extra similarities that I didn't mention, although I feel like I got most of them. It's really in-depth, going into detail, all the nitty-gritty, so if you like that kind of content, you can watch that video. And of course, you should subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already, so that you can support me and all of my hate-filled reviews that I make on this channel. Not all of them are this negative though, I promise. I do have good reviews, and I do like books occasionally. So of course, subscribe to my channel, and you can also follow me on all my social media at Listen to Kristen on Instagram, TikTok, and BlueSky. So with that being said, I'm done. So I leave you with this. Stay strong. Don't fall for the propaganda. If you need a romance fix, just find it elsewhere. Read a fan fiction. Have higher standards for your romance, guys. This is cheap and easy. This is fast fashion. I could probably find this on AliExpress. But anyway, that's the end of my rant review. Too much negativity, but at least it's left my system and I feel good. Anyway, read Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. Thank you.